So, welcome everybody, and I think it's kind of your first time hearing about this. So, welcome to Painting from the Source. Tonight we're going to describe the process to you. I'm going to show you some slides that have been taken by slides of participants' paintings from many, many years of working with people. And then, I think we will have time, I'll show you some of my paintings from the source as well. And then we will experiment with just playing with crayons and paper for a bit. And then we'll have a little wrap up with questions and answers. So, imagine that your conscious mind is like an island just coming above the surface of a vast ocean. This beautiful small island. And around your mind is an amazing sea. Really an ocean that's vast and wide and deep. And imagine that that is your unconscious, your collective unconscious. Within there are the quantum fields, are all the angels and devas, all the spirits of those who were before and yet to come, all the archetypes, just all the amazing things that we're not consciously aware of, the synchronicities, your muse, your guiding inner guides, your totems, just this whole other world that most of us, especially those of us who grew up in Western civilization, are not consciously aware of. And there's a lot of healing in that place. Also, when we go to sleep at night, when we have dreams, which we have dreams every night, even though we might not remember them, those dreams come from this place as well. There are many ways to tap into that vast ocean. One of the best that I know of is through the creative process. Going into an alternate state of consciousness while you create. And that includes writing a poem, making music, doing a dance movement without copying someone. But for me, painting is the deepest and the most beautiful way to tap into that place. And so what I think we do naturally when we're children and we draw and paint is we tap into that place naturally. In Western education, sadly, as we get older, we leave that. And our culture decides you should be a professional artist and you shouldn't even attempt it, which is really sad. Then what happens is those that our culture deems have talent, our culture not realizing that everybody really is an artist, they're sent to professional art schools often. If you're lucky, you don't go to a professional art school and then you become what is now known, there's a whole area called outsider art where people weren't trained. But then in art school what happens, and what happened to me, is you're critiqued and you're taught the right way to do it and the wrong way to do it, and you're affected by what will sell and what gallery owners will like, and that all those things dampen whatever natural spark you had. There are those professionally trained painters who manage to overcome that and still stay true to their source. They're very fortunate. Very often, besides people who have not painted since they were in kindergarten, who come to my workshop, very often professional painters, people who've been professionally trained, and even who have sold their paintings for lots of money, come to my workshop because they feel that they're getting jaded. and they're losing their spontaneity. And so they come to get another hit of spirit, to get another hit with their muse, and to be inspired. So what I do is very, very simple. I actually created the kind of workshop that I needed to be re-inspired. I made a workshop that I wanted to go to, which is one of the best ways to create a class, what you need. And so what we purposely do is use kindergarten paint and paper so that we're not self-conscious about expensive materials. And one of the things I suggest to people is paint as if you're going to burn it. And also imagine that when and if you take your painting home, you're not going to show it to anybody home. It's only for your own private viewing. And that way, people's self-consciousness gets diffused. So, another guideline in the workshop I do is I tell people, even if the workshop is a whole day, even if it's a weekend, even if it's 5 days, I've even done 7 days one, and I tell people, you're going to stay in the same painting the whole time. That's your guideline. Once in a while, people are desperate and they grab another piece of paper. But lo and behold, what ends up happening is at some point, that other painting becomes attached to the first one. This is without them even planning it. It's almost, it fits in like a puzzle, and they didn't even realize it. So although I ask people to stay in one painting the whole time, not to, oh, I don't like this, I'm going to take a new paper, tear it up and throw it in the trash. I'm going to start over. No, I don't like that. I'm going to start over. That's what people often want to do. Or, oh, I love this. This is so beautiful. I love the effect I got in this. I don't want to ruin it by painting more on it. You just keep going. And what often happens, because temper paint, kindergarten paint, dries very, very quickly, what happens is they can paint layers and layers and layers endlessly. It's amazing. What's happened occasionally is people have just kept painting and painting, and it's been very humid, and it turns brown because they're just getting all these colors on and messing it up and getting their hands in it. And then what happens is, this has happened a couple of times, the paper disintegrates into like brown mud. And so then I'll say, okay, take another paper and take this brown paper that's almost like brown paper mache and put it into the new paper, just smash it on, so it's almost like three-dimensional, and paint on that. So in other words, it's really recycled. Another thing that people often do, that I encourage them to do, if the painting wants it, is to add paper on. We always have masking tape, and sometimes a painting wants to grow. And when you really are painting for a while, and you have gone into this alternate state of consciousness, the painting actually begins to talk to you. It's amazing. And it tells you, I need more paper below. Let's say you have an image of a tree, and you've cut it off at the bottom of the trunk. And you'll be looking at it, and you know something's not right, and you kind of feel uncomfortable. And let's say you're not at the point yet to actually ask the painting, what do you want? And become the painting and speak as the painting, because that would seem too crazy. So we do that also in the workshop, but let's say you're not ready to do that yet. But you can hear it say, I need roots, I need earth beneath me, I need to go deeper. So what do? You add paper on the bottom, right? Now lots of times people are just, they cheat. What they do is, they have this painting, they're getting tired of it, they want to start a new painting. And so what they do is, okay, I'm going to follow the rules. They tape on another piece of paper next to, on the right side, the left side, the top of the bottom, and they start painting a completely new painting in it. So it's not attached. Eventually, it catches up with them and it gets attached. It's really interesting. the slides I'm going to be showing you today most of them are the final layer. So when you look at them, you may get a feeling that there are other paintings underneath them, but it's more going to be a feeling. You're not going to actually see the layers. And one of the reasons is because I want people to feel really safe when they're painting. And I want it to be like kindergarten or like in an indigenous tribe where there are no cameras. I don't record the layers because I don't want to bring technology into the room, just to keep it safe, you know. Once in a while, with very experienced painters who are already tapped in, and in my own paintings, I have recorded the layers. And I might in the slides have one or two paintings that show an earlier stage and then a later stage. So we'll see that. I'll point that out to you when I have that. I'm just thinking to see if there's anything else before I show you the paintings that, up till now, just in terms of the philosophy behind this, does anybody have a question as to anything that I've said so far? Okay.
Could you go over the process, the sort of more metaphysical aspect of it? Just elaborate a little bit more. Yeah.
Well, first, one of the things that helps is I have people. Julie, could you give me one of my books just so I can show it? Here, we have this one. Thank you. I have people read my book before they come to the workshop, and that really helps. Many people read the book who are in places where they can't get to a workshop, and the book is designed to be able to get people painting without ever coming to a workshop. It's better to come to a workshop because you're with a group, you're with a tribe of people in the way that art was always created in a tribal atmosphere. So the idea is that it's kind of like what I said in the beginning. There's this place, I call it the source. You can call it the unconscious, the collective unconscious, this whole vast sea that we're not consciously aware of, that is so rich and full of ideas and of information for us and guides and healing. This is the spiritual aspect of the workshop, and tapping into that place really helps us have authenticity and more creative ideas, and it taps into our imagination. So what I've noticed is when I started reading about quantum physics and particle theory and many of the new discoveries in physics, I started realizing that explains why these paintings are so amazing, why things happen, like for instance, someone painting an image after a couple of layers, this image of a man. She had no professional background, but this man looked very realistic. He had blonde hair, he had blue eyes, he was wearing a blue shirt and blue jeans, and he showed up in her painting. And then somewhere else in the painting, in perfect composition, was the birth sign for Libra. I think it's a woman holding a scale, right? And so it was a big puzzle to her. In fact, when people tell me, I have no idea what I'm painting, I don't know where this is coming from, I know they're plugged in. You know, when they're telling me, oh, this is my childhood trauma, this is the story of my life, this is the 4 elements, this and that, I know they're not quite plugged in yet. When they're at a point where, I don't know what this is, and they're just having fun, then I know they're really in it, and it's flowing. Anyway, this woman that painted this man, a month later she called me, and she said that she met that man, and that he was a Libra, and she was starting a romantic relationship with him. So those are the kind of things that can happen. Often women are in the workshop who have been trying to become pregnant for years, and sometimes they're about to adopt, and then they go home and they call me next month. Well, that month they became pregnant. There's a painting, and I don't know if I have it in the slideshow, that I did once, just by accident. I wasn't trying to heal my arthritis. I was just devoted to painting whatever the source wanted me to paint. It was a scary painting, I have to say. It took a lot of courage to paint it. And I went through a lot of symptoms and agony while I was painting it, and I questioned my sanity while I was painting it. But the next morning, all my arthritic symptoms were gone.
Wow.
Yeah. So that, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's the theory behind this, that physical symptoms, dreams, and paintings from the source all come from that same place. Whatever you want to call it God, call it, Gaia, call it the source. I just call it the source because for me it covers everything. Right. Okay, so we're first going to look at paintings that participants have done in previous workshops. And one of the things that I'm wanting you to notice, and you will, it's easy, that no one is copying the teacher here. Everything's different. Everybody is completely different and individual. This is an example of a painting that grew. It has probably 20 pieces of paper taped on. You might even see the places on the right side where the seams are. Also, this is an example of a painting that is halfway done. These can go on for a year. It's like a spiritual practice where you hang it up, and like the Tibetan monks go and they do all the details. You just do every day. You might take out your paintbrush and do details on it, and details on it, and might even change. So I'm going to go through them pretty quickly. Let me go back to this one just to show you examples. People are not, you can tell here, no one is inhibited. This is, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Now, what happens is, when people paint from this very, very deep place, what happens is that people that view the painting can feel it. It gets communicated out. So whereas a painting can heal the painter, it can also have similar effects on the person that views it. This is someone who never painted before. There were layers underneath the painting, and yeah. You can see people are sometimes called to cut shapes out of the painting, and she takes some of the pieces of paper up above.
The shape of a guitar.
Ah, so it is. Right. But I'm glad you said that, because one of the cornerstones of the workshop is, well, there are a couple of things. One, nobody makes a comment about anybody's painting. That is so important. Even a positive comment can make someone self-conscious. And the other thing is, we don't analyze or interpret. That is so important, because one of the things that people come to the workshop for is they'll walk in and they'll say to me, Aviva, I want to get my mind out of the way. I want to give my mind a rest. I want to be nonverbal. I want to just let go of the intellect and just let myself become a channel. And that's really what happens where you channel. You've heard of channels that speak for entities. Well, here you become a channel for painting. And another thing I call it is Ouija board painting, because you just let whatever color, whatever brush wants to come. You don't have to understand it. here you can clearly see that I don't think this person attached the papers together in the middle that well. Maybe when they went home. Who knows where this scene came from? A desert, a woman in labor. Just people are shocked. They don't sketch anything on the paper first. They just take paint and they start. I don't know if you can see it in the slide, but in the middle is a little boy kind of jumping out. It's like three-dimensional, that little figure. Something told this person that she cut a little figure like paper dolls out of the paper. She folded up like paper behind it, like a little spring, like a staircase, so you fold the paper. Mm-hmm. And so he's popping out, that little figure. Yeah. That was a big one. I'm wondering about does this seem like they're focused properly?
I think the photo's out of focus because the projector's in.
So it's not that we have to do an adjustment on them.
No.
It's some of the photos are not focused. Isn't this mysterious? And you see, even on the bottom, there's like a face. Yeah, no plan. That's probably her handprint, he read. Just really, and who knows how many layers beyond. Oh, there's a Mayan feeling. Isn't there in that one? Just wild. I wish you could see the originals. This person made the tempera paint look like watercolors. Just extraordinary. A lot of this painting was just dots. This person liked to paint dots. And the woman is like a cat also. Really sweet. The details in the original are just extraordinary. You can see that there is a little bit of a theme of birth in a lot of the paintings. Very often, the first painting from the source that people do, there's some kind of birth, because it almost is symbolic of them giving birth to the painting, I think this is the same person. Yeah. I have a couple of her paintings. She actually came and she did a teacher training with me, because I also teach people how to hold space for the workshop. Wow, see that army of the flight of the dragonflies in the lower right. Wow. This painting is very, very large. I remember this one. And this isn't even the whole painting. I think this is a detail of it. All tempera paint. See that figure jumping out in the middle? Yeah. This is part of a painting. It's part of a much bigger painting. It just happens that the woman that painted this is Chinese. This was painted in New Mexico, in Santa Fe, in my workshop in Santa Fe, where the skies are amazing. And we were having summer rainstorms, so she might have been affected by that. You know those lightning storms in the summer? Yeah. Oh, this one, with that door opening and the mysterious. the mystery. And even the symbols on the door. These creatures. This had a lot of papers taped on it too. It was a little bit like a collage as well. It might have been a part of a painting that was torn and the pieces got glued on. Look at this whole little world and this little cave from another time and place. This same person painted this one and this one. You can see people's individual way of painting. This woman just did so many details. It's also a very large painting. This is a great healing for the person that painted it. You might even be able to get a sense of that just by watching it, looking at it. This woman was working on, she was in pain actually, and working on what might lie beneath the pain she was having on a spiritual level. Here has the painter in it, so you get a sense of scale. I led a workshop in New Zealand, and this was one of the women that was painting in the workshop. And there's really a New Zealand-y kind of feeling here of the sea and the ocean and it being a big island. Temper paint. Isn't it amazing how different everybody is? Nobody is copying the teacher.
But I see a lot of common themes.
Yes.
Eyeballs everywhere. Fire.
Yes.
Water. A lot of dots, like Australian Aboriginal art.
Yep. Yeah.
And most of it seems to be very psychedelic and visionary kind of feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of archetypical themes coming up. Oh, do you see the owl in this also? Yeah. There's also a lot of birth. And did you notice a lot of snakes in the paintings also? I remember this one. Do you have a sense of how large this is? Yeah.
And that pose, though, a lot of people are in that pose.
Yeah, this birthing kind of pose. Yeah. This sliding kind of pose, I know. I love when spontaneously the painting ends up not just being a square, but it gets torn. Like I think she actually even tore it in some places. It got ripped, and that's one of the nice things with paper. This painting could actually be, this is one of those that you could turn either way. But I think that's the floor below. I think I have it the way. Another thing I love about these paintings is that they come from, they look like they could be painted from different eras, different parts of the world. Some have an Oriental look, some an Aborigine look, some a Hindu look, some You know, I think this is the same painting in a different stage. See that? Or you know what? This might be a close-up. No. Is it the exact same? No. This is later. This is with more... See the butterflies on the right side? Mm-hmm. Okay, now look here. Oh, no, they're there. Mm-hmm. I don't know, maybe it's the same painting. This is that same painter, and it's the same painting, but it grew. It's really big. It's about as big as half this wall that's in front of us. It's gigantic. You know, it was an ongoing saga. Yeah. Oh, you know what? I showed you the bottom part of this. This is also in one of the other paintings. It's another layer of, I think, the painting with the horse. Okay, this is the same painting. I think it's got some more paint on it, some more details on it. Yeah, it does have some more little details on it. This was, I think, done in a workshop I did in England. Isis, she said, the Egyptian god Isis. Mm-hmm. Right. This is the same painting, but I think it's either a different exposure or it's got more paint on it. It's still in process. Isn't that fun? Right. Yeah. She just took a scissors to it. That's a cool shape too, isn't it? See, what happened is the arm was up and the painting said, I want you to do my hand. I don't want it to be off the paper. I want it to show. So the person added some paper, at least just for the hand. Kind of cute. This is big also. Lots of details. And many layers. Oh, I had this one before. I don't know if you remember it.
Yeah, the sweet
Right. I think that...
This one too.
Oh, right, that one too. Okay, I also do the workshop sometimes in oil pastels, and the last 5 slides you're going to see now are in oil pastels. You do not need paint to do this. Sometimes it was just too heavy to carry paint to some part of the world or something. So we use oil pastels, so you'll see the amazing things that can happen with oil pastels. What happened here is there was also, with oil pastels, you can also scrape away. And there was a lot of scraping with colors underneath, and then putting black on top, and then scraping away the black. And remember we used to do that in elementary school? This is oil pastel. Oil pastel. This is a real big, long vertical in oil pastel. Yay! That's it. Very good. So, do you want to see a few of mine before we play with crayons? Okay. Right. So, some of these paintings toward the end were done, were photographed differently, and the colors are off. They're not, but I'll tell you about them when we come to them. So I'm just going to show you a few of mine because I want us to have time to play with crayons. You see. This is very large. It's about 8 papers taped together. This is gigantic. This is hanging up in my living room. This is 8 feet high. And maybe 4 feet wide. But 8 feet high.
That's what you see when you walk into her house.
Right.
On the wall opposite your door.
That's right. She greets you immediately. And it took a long time to paint this. What happened with this is I started on one piece of paper where the face is, and I was just playing with paint, and something said take brown paint. And I was just playing, like doodling, and suddenly it was a face, and the face told me I want to be painted. Well, I knew that if that's the face, and I always put on the whole body, I knew it was going to be big. And I bargained with her. I talked to her, well, can I have you sitting cross-legged? And she didn't. She wanted to be standing. So I have to be standing. And so you got to do. If you don't go willingly, you get dragged. And getting dragged sometimes doesn't look pretty. So it could be fraught with symptoms and all kinds of stuff. There's a lot of my hand. Can you tell the places where I painted with my hands, with my fingers? I just put my hands in the paint, and I did a lot of finger painting in here. This is one of my first breakthrough paintings when I started painting this way again, after all the years of art school and art therapy school, and teaching art and coming back. And it's so interesting that it was a birth. As I said, my own first breakthrough was a birth. This is, I was selling my house in the woods and it wasn't selling. And I realized because I wasn't really ready to let it go. So this painting was a kind of like a totem painting for saying goodbye to my house. And someone called and bought the house the next day. Mm-hmm. There's a sense of infinity here in the Kundalini as well. This is an oil pastel drawing, actually a small 18 by 24 paper. Okay, these are the ones, I know the colors look like neon. This is nothing like how the colors really are, but at least you can get a sense of the design on the drawing. These next photos were taken for making copies of my painting to sell, for people to order them from my website, and the professional photographer that took them said that I have to get the right color from the printer. I don't know why they turned out like this. So, anyway, like neon light, like using electric paint. Like I don't like these colors. You can get a sense. This is a watercolor, by the way, it's a small watercolor. This is fairly close to the original, but then there's not a lot of color in it. This is he came out spontaneously. There's a whole other painting underneath of a skull. This is a large painting of a skull that I painted to heal my sinus infections that I was getting all my life. And it's a pretty scary looking painting with, all the gook coming out of the sinuses and everything. And then this layer wanted to come on top of it. And needless to say, I've never had a sinus infection or headache since. And that was 8 years ago. So that's the kind of thing. Because we're going into such a powerful place, I did this a few weeks ago when I was teaching in Islam. This is pretty large. again, those colors, no, not those. Because this is mainly black and white, the colors are not as... It's kind of like going back to the source. Here's something really interesting. I was working on this painting in a studio in New Mexico, leading a workshop, and I went to bed, and the next morning, and it was halfway done, the next morning I came in, and a moth, one of those little white moths, died right on that spot.
Oh.
And of course, it was the source telling me, glue it in, it needs to be here. I mean, when you get that, And then, of course, I had to look in the totem book for moth and the message of moth, and, it's just really extraordinary. This is really, and that was torn. I tore it. And in fact, I even took fire and I burnt some of the edges. Because for me, paintings are prayers. They're ritual prayers. And let's see. I think that's it. This is my early phase. Again, the colors, just the colors are way off. But this was in the early years when I first started painting this way, and I had a real healing of, I grew up in a world and a religion, within an Orthodox Jewish family, where men were really valued in a way over women that wasn't good for women. And I grew up in a temple, a synagogue, where the women were allowed to be rabbis, the men were allowed to be rabbis, not women. And also the women weren't permitted to touch the First Testament, the Torah, and they had to sit in back. And so this just spontaneously, I tapped into this vision, like a God that looked like me, like, oh, if men could be painted as gods, why not a woman? And when I did this 35 years ago, I wasn't aware of the goddess movement that was happening. I mean, I had studied Greek mythology. I knew that there were goddesses, but I didn't realize that, women were empowering themselves that way. And so that was really a lovely gift for me. There we go. Okay, so it is true that my workshops last a whole day or a whole weekend or 5 days or 7 days where people are painting away or drawing away. But there is absolutely no reason why you cannot tap into the source just like that. So we're going to draw for maybe 10 minutes. And what I'd like you to do is, if you don't believe that you can tap in and channel, pretend you believe it. If you feel at all resistant to using your non-dominant hand, that will help. And for a moment, think of something that might be going on in your life that you have a question about, that you're puzzled about, that you would like more information. You know how sometimes people will go to a tarot deck and they'll ask a question about something that's going on, and they'll just pick one card. But first they'll say, I would like some more information about this decision, whether to move or not, or whatever it is, whether to marry this person or not, or what's going on with what job should I take, or something like that. So just think of something, and then kind of put it out of your mind, and then basically just start playing. Use whichever colors you want. You can press hard with the crayons, you can go soft, you can draw on top of other colors. yourself judging, just notice and say, oh, I'm judging this. And just kind of like turn that little radio off in your head, like, thanks for sharing. I'm very grateful that you work so well, mind, but right now I don't need you. And if you notice yourself starting to analyze it or interpret it, just say, oh, there I go, I'm trying to analyze. This is really coming from a very mysterious place. It might surprise you, it takes courage to do this, because we identify with what we're drawing. This is really, really important to remember, that sometimes you've just been chosen by the source to channel this drawing. It's not about you personally. And so it sometimes takes courage to allow yourself to become a vessel, to just put things on the paper. So I'm going to ring a bell, we're going to start drawing, and then we'll just draw for 10 minutes, because I want us to have time to share afterwards and to wrap up a little bit. So I'm just going to get the bell and ring it.
I just have a question.
Oh, please.
What's the trick to escaping our own mind and ourself and painting from the source? What's the actual trick there?
Well, one thing that might help is while you're drawing, I might be saying some things. And so that could guide you as well. There's no real trick except you imagine that you are someone from an indigenous tribe. You're a shaman in an indigenous tribe. And you have been asked to just draw something for the tribe. That's the way you pray. That's getting your message. Another trick, which I already did before you came, is I lit candles. You didn't see it. And I said a little prayer, and I brought in all the 4 directions, and I made a sacred ritual. So I'm glad you asked me that, because it's important. This guy's good. So doing a little ritual first and asking for guidance is really good, and that really helps. And then playing, and again, using your non-dominant hand can help also. So, do you have any other questions, sir? Might be something I forgot to say. Okay, great. All right. So, let's go. Very good. All right. Thank you for being willing to play with me and having the courage to do some drawing from the source. In the remaining minutes, I would love to hear if anybody wants to share something about their drawing or what it was like. If you found that you had some moments of really getting lost in it, or let go of your mind for a few moments, or if you have any questions.
I noticed that I ended up painting a metaphor that was something that I it was a verbal thing that I used to describe a feeling I had a week or so ago, a couple times. So I don't know if that was going too literal or symbolic, but it was what came to mind first.
Right. Yeah. Is it okay if I let me put this down? Just so, because it might not be okay, because these are very personal. So that's what I wanted to ask you. This way. Yeah. It's best not to interpret, but if you, but I think what you're saying is there was a feeling tone that you had recently that you forgot about, and it came back to you when you were drawing this. Yeah. And that's all you have to know. Very often, did you ask a question before you started drawing that you wanted some insight on? Yeah. Sometimes it takes a while for the drawing to tell you how it relates to your question. So, anybody else? Yes.
So basically, I have like this kind of lucid dream, spirit, animal visit, half asleep type thing, and I was trying to draw that animal. It was some sort of big cat, and I took a black crayon, but it turned out to be blue. I mean, it looks totally black, but it turned out to be blue. I'm like, whoa! And then I started drawing.
Can I hold your drawing? Can I show you?
And then I started drawing all these colors, and I'm like, okay. And in my dream thing, it looked way more realistic.
See it? Can you get it? Right.
I'm like, okay.
That's creature, right? Yeah, when you get surprised like that, that's really sweet to get a surprise. It's very interesting what happened to you with thinking that it was black and it turned out to be blue. One of the things I say over and over in the process is that there are no mistakes and no accidents. And I know, of course it does look black, but it wanted to be blue. And so when those kind of things happen, what I do is I assume that the source had a different idea. I thought it should be black, but the source wanted it to be blue. So, thank you. Yeah. Anybody else want to share anything? We don't have to see your painting. If you had any surprise or any.
I started with my non-dominant hand because I really didn't know what I was feeling other than being transitional.
Could you speak up a little bit?
Being more in a transitional period or something, and I had chosen bright colors, and then as I was going around and around with the colors, I started to see that maybe that was a face or something, or maybe I was looking at someone.
Mm-hmm. And did you bring the face out?
I started to make a face, more of a shape of a face, and then I noticed in another area that there was something that kind of looked like a face as well. And so I was and then I was trying to connect everything, and I don't know why. I wanted everything to be connected, all the colors, all the different things to connect.
I suggest you take some crayons home with you.
Okay.
And you keep drawing.
Okay.
And just keep playing with it and living with it and being with it. Great.
I'll do that, yeah.
Julie, did you want to share anything? I have no idea I knew I wanted red. I knew. I was hungry for red. And I wasn't sure what color my dark crayon was either. I was hoping it was blue, actually. So this is the mystery. And I'm going to keep at it and see what it has to say to me. I like circles. And I have a tendency to do circles a lot. So whatever that's about. Whatever it's about, I assume it's for the best. And I encourage everybody to, if they're worried about something, just assume it's for the best. And you fake it till you make it, and after a while you start believing it, and then after a while everything's for the best, and the best happens. So that's a good thing. So I'd like to close with thank you. Thank you to the source. Thank you for those of you who showed up. Thank you for my video guy here. And I really appreciate that. And we'll see what happens next.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night, everybody. Very good.